Welcome to this episode of Digital Marketing Confessions. I'm your host, Steve Hooper, and this is where I'll be asking the masterminds of the digital marketing community what is and what isn't working in the world of digital right now. When it comes to masterminds, this week's guest really does fall into that category. Our guest is the amazing and incredible Scott Cunningham from Social Lite in Canada. And Social Lite are a Shopify expert agency. And what Scott doesn't know about e-commerce just isn't worth knowing. It really isn't. I mean, if I can't do something, then the first person I call is Scott, because he really is an absolute mastermind when it comes to e-commerce and making sure that his clients get results. And some of the topics in today's podcast you're going to absolutely love. So if you're in e-commerce, knuckle down, grab a pen and a piece of paper. You're going to really want to take some notes on this one. So I am delighted today, and I feel very in awe today because one of my personal heroes agreed to come on to talk to me, and we've spoken so much online, and I'm absolutely honoured to welcome from Social Lite over in Edmonton in Canada, Scott Cunningham. And if you're in the Shopify arena, you may well have heard of Scott because Shopify kind of asked him to go and do training sessions and things like that. He's a fellow digital marketer certified partner, and I am absolutely honored to welcome my buddy Scott Cunningham to Digital Marketing Confessions. Scott, welcome.
Steve, thank you so much for having me here today. That was quite the warm introduction. I would say, yeah, we're definitely buddies from the Digital Marketer Certified Partner Program. You and I have had lots of great conversations about e-commerce. So I'm really honored to be here today.
And I'm really excited because, you know, obviously there's a lot of stuff going on because as e-commerce marketers, we start planning really early for Black Friday and Cyber Monday and what's happening with that and all the rest of it. So I'm actually really excited to have you on now because it falls in perfectly with the timing of a lot of our clients. So yeah, you know, that for me is absolutely brilliant timing. So Scott, tell us a little bit about Social Lite, what you guys do aside from the Shopify stuff, but include that as well. But you know, give us a range of what you do and how you do it.
Yeah, absolutely, Steve. I would love to. And I'll like rewind back a few years when I founded Social Lite as an agency. We didn't actually know we were going to be doing specifically e-commerce at that time. So we started, we started thinking, let's just do the best digital tactics that we can do. And everybody needs that. So we thought, I thought when I founded it, like I'll just work with a lot of great clients who need these digital skill sets. Mind you, this was in 2011. Yeah. So I feel like you fast forward to today, there's a lot more people who know how to do the simple tactics, right? But in those days, even the tactics were hard to accomplish for businesses.
They were.
So they didn't even know how to set up a Facebook page. They didn't know how to set up and nowadays, like everybody knows how to do that. So, just over time, we kind of evolved with the market trend as well. And we started to get really more focused on conversion science is like a word we used to use back in 2015. And with conversion science, it's not just about doing tactics for the sake of doing tactics. It's about having an integrated strategy that ties back measurable revenue for your clients. And we just became very obsessed with always getting results. I think as marketers, we're easily the quickest to blame when things aren't going right.
Yep.
We never wanted to be that type of agency. We're like, we don't want to be the blamed agency. We want to be the celebrated agency. So let's obsess about getting revenue for our clients each and every time. And through that process, we just kept narrowing our focus and we started looking at the things where we could continually get repeatable sales for our clients. E-commerce was obviously standing out the loudest based on our little introspection. And we just decided to pivot one day and we said, you know what, we're only going to do Shopify. First we're only going to do e-commerce. And we were helping people like sell tickets for festivals and we were helping like B2B companies with e-commerce. And over time, we're like, no, let's get even more specific. Let's just do Shopify stores for consumer goods and physical products.
Yeah. And you, like myself, massive advocate for Shopify because over the years, and I know that you're the same, you see the horror stories that go on with other platforms and when it comes to user interface, they spend an awful lot of money making sure that it's nice and easy and pretty straightforward. And I'm not going to mention it, but there is another system that is the techie version of Shopify. If you're tech minded, you're gonna go down this road, and it's named after a color, and I'll let you take the run wild with who I'm talking about. But it's literally just, you know, there's so much that you can do with it that it just overcomplicates the process. And you know, like yourself, Shopify is a dream come true because you can do so much with it, yet you have the support of this huge company that, you know, that they fire all the education and they give you all the hints, they manage all of the plugins and everything that go with it. So you know, there is just so much that you can do with Shopify. So I'm a massive advocate for that, and I'm not surprised that you're doing as well as you are with the pivot that you took into the Shopify area, because it's just brilliant.
I think you nailed it with you know, the one thing we wanted to really focus on, which I've already said, is like the measurable results. You know what gets in the way of measurable results? Steep learning curves every time you start a project. So, you know, we actually got certified as a Shopify expert in 2014. And back in those days, it wasn't for marketing. It was, they were only certifying partners for like dev and store design and product photography and things like this. So we had like built enough Shopify stores. We kept applying to get this expert status. We eventually got it. And so we've kind of always been working with the platform. And when we started to like pivot into just e-commerce, we were like, yeah, a lot of these strategies will apply with the BigCommerce and the Magentos and the Lightspeeds and all these other platforms that we've worked a lot with. And then over time, you just realize like, we don't want like this learning curve to get in the way of our staff performing. So if there's like a steep learning curve to learn a new CRM and like all these kinds of things, CRM or content management system or whatever it may be, each and every time, it's just going to prevent us from doing awesome work. And you nailed it bang on with Shopify. Like, they're such an innovative company. I went to their partner conference. I went to the virtual one this year, but 2 years ago, I traveled to Toronto to go to the partner conference. And they were saying like, I think they were saying that like, they generated some amount of billions of dollars from like customers on Shopify stores, but also the partner community was like generating over $1 billion. So that's like one massive
growth, isn't it?
Yeah. And it just shows you that like, those partners are all developing solutions for Shopify store owners. So that's one of our favorite things, is that there's just such a big network of people problem solving all kinds of business challenges.
Yep. And the Shopify community as well. I mean, we're very privileged with the digital marketing community that we're part of, because you reach out and you get an answer. And the Shopify community is very much the same. You know, there's always somebody there, whether it be within Shopify themselves or someone like yourself or your team, that will reach out and go, hey, look, you know, we can help you with that. We know the answer to that. And that's priceless when it comes to choosing your software and choosing your package. Anything to do with the web, you know, that's absolutely priceless. And it as you say, it takes out the learning curve and makes it an awful lot easier.
Yeah, I couldn't like, I guess I won't name platforms that we don't use as well.
Let's say like, Magento. Let's just throw it in there.
I kind of hinted at it a little bit earlier, but yeah, when we're working with like a WooCommerce or any kind of like other platform, it's like, hey, we want to make a subscribe and save solution for a subscription product.
Yeah.
And maybe they have it now, but I remember a couple of years ago we came across this challenge, and it's like, why aren't we using Shopify? We can just plug in Recharge or Bold subscription or, you know, and with WooCommerce, we had to actually custom develop it. So it's not only creating more of a learning curve on our end, it's creating more of a cost on our clients, because they have to finance those custom projects.
Very much so. And custom projects, as we know, they get out of hand very, very quickly. We've got a client who's an optician, and he's come up with this fantastic idea of the pupil measurement, and he wants to be able to do all the pupil measurement and everything online and all the rest of it. And he's like, but I want it to do it for every frame and every set of glasses and all that. And we're just like, the database for that is just going to be enormous, you know. So we've kind of farmed it out to couple of Shopify developers who are, you know, in that sort of area already. and they're looking at it and they're coming back and they're going, this is genius, this is brilliant, we're just going to develop it as an app and make it available as a subscription. And we're like, that's great, that's going to save us loads in development, because if they can make their money back on subscription, which if they're turning over, the Shopify developers are turning over $1 billion in revenue on apps and such like, then chances are they're making an awful lot of money back. It's just a wonderful solution to go to. And I'm massive advocate for it, and I know you are, because every time I see you, you've got a Shopify logo on you somewhere.
Yeah, actually I have a little, no, I'm just kidding.
Tattoo.
Yeah, my new tattoo here. Yeah.
Great. So Scott, thank you for agreeing to come on. And as you know, there's 2 questions coming in your general direction. And the first one is, what isn't, in your opinion, working in the world of digital marketing right now?
Okay, that's a really good question. And I think like what I would like to do is strip it back to some basics here.
No problem.
Because, and I'm probably gonna I'm obviously gonna be a little bit biased. I'm gonna kind of be talking about, or not biased, I'm just gonna be very niche and specifically talking about like the e-commerce world.
It's fantastic.
So we're obviously entrenched in that world. So I think what's not working, and I've heard a lot of like my marketing idols and marketing mentors say these kinds of things too. I think what is not working is doing more marketing for the sake of doing more marketing.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I mean by that, like, when we're working with a lot of e-commerce businesses, they come to us and we usually bucket them into one of 3 categories. So if they're a startup, like they're just getting started with their very exciting e-commerce store, they're at a crawl. We consider them to be at a very crawl stage. And a lot of people at the crawl stage don't realize that if you're financing your startup and you're spending all this money on branding and inventory, you should plan to spend, like, branding and inventory should be 1/3 of your total spend, and the other 2/3 should be promotion.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm gonna get back to that in a sec. But at the crawl stage, it's these startups, and they're just getting started, so they got to build their business. And then in the middle, there's a business who's at a walk, and they're already like, they've proven their customer base. They've like proven the product market fit is there. They're getting lots of customers in the door. There's a consistent like stream of new customers and all these kinds of things. So they're usually at like anywhere between like a $20,000 to $100,000 a month is like a walk. And then when we get to the run, these people are just like flying, and they're usually doing $100,000 to $1 million or $100,000 to $1 million a month. But they usually reach like a plateau, and they need something to like supercharge them, and they need new avenues and all these kinds of things. So my answer to what isn't working, when I'm saying doing more marketing for the sake of doing more marketing, that a lot of those crawl businesses are really guilty of that, where they invest not 1/3 of their spend into branding and inventory. They invest 80% of their budget into branding and inventory. And then they only have like a really small budget to go and advertise. And when we go and advertise, we can't just expect that we're going to put out a few ads and everybody's going to show up. So it's not smart to just, hey, I got this amazing branding, I got this inventory, let's go throw out a few ads and I'm going to be so successful. So we don't want to do more marketing until we validate the product market fit. So if a business comes to us and they're like, Scott, I'm a startup, I'm just getting started on Shopify, before I'd even advise them to spend thousands of dollars on ads or thousands of dollars with us, I'm going to say, let's validate. You need to show us that you validated product market fit. And what that means to us is that they have about $1,000 to $2,000 a month coming in for the store. Yeah. And it's no longer like their friends and family. Friends and family are a great way to start the validation though.
Yeah.
And I would advise businesses, before investing in inventory and ads or branding, just prove the concept. Like, take your product, go present it to a bunch of people, friends and family and communities and networks, and just like see if you get a little bit of uptake. And once you get a little uptake, okay, let's go and get our inventory now. Like, we're ready to sell. We've kind of proven it a little bit. And then, it's like, let's get to a point where we're doing 1,000, 2,000 of new customers. And at that point, I'm ready to do some more marketing.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes people get ahead of like the cart, or the horse gets in front of the car, the cart gets in front of the horse, whatever that saying is. But they're like, I just want to invest so much in my branding. I want thousands of products in my warehouse, and I want to spend a little bit on marketing. So I think like we don't want to just do marketing for the sake of doing marketing. If the product like is a proven to add value to a specific customer segment, it's going to be a lot easier to market.
Yep.
So I think for me, what's not working is people just like marketing the heck out of something that's not even validated.
I couldn't agree with you more. We see it on a regular basis. People come to us and say, hey, we've got this, it's doing all right. And as you say, they need to be getting $1,000 to $2,000 through the door a month. Otherwise it's not going to work for them. And I was listening to an audiobook the other day, a guy called Mike Michaelwitz, who did a book called Profit First. And I'm going to give him a mention in the hope that he listens to the podcast. But
I love Pumpkin Plan, one of my favorite books.
Pumpkin Plan's amazing. Yeah. This was the Surge, the book The Surge, and he was very much talking about how people will invest in this, that, and the other, and they just lose track of what they're doing. And he did it himself, and he said, look, you've got to concentrate your efforts, and you've got to build up a community of people that you can go to and you can talk to. And it's a similar sort of thing. And friends and family is the best way to do it, because there's nothing more honest than a mother. I'm really sorry, Mum, but if I'm putting on a few pounds, you're the first one to tell me that. So your mum's always going to give you an honest opinion. But what Mike was saying in his book was when he's writing a new book, he has a group of people who are entrepreneurs. They're not editors in any way, shape, or form, but he will send them chapters of the book to read through and edit and come back with ideas and all the rest of it. And he's before he even launches the book, he knows that he's hit his target audience, and it's there. And I think that with e-commerce especially, you banging your head against a brick wall trying to flog a dead horse if you don't put some effort into getting your product out there and getting it seen. And we go through the heartbreak of seeing people that come to us and they say, hey, yeah, you're great, we love you, you're brilliant, we want to work with you. And we go, okay, show us proof that it works, show us that this product is actually worthwhile, because otherwise, there's my bank details, just put your money in the bank and we'll just call it quits, because we're not actually going to do anything, because we can't do it. And I think that's the disappointment, is that there's so many companies out there and so many small startups that miss out on that separation of, this is your product, this is your development, this is your branding. Over here, this massive chunk of money that you've got left over, that's your marketing budget. That's where, if you want people to buy this little bit over here, then this massive bit over here needs to go towards paying for that. And that's where I think a lot of companies are missing out. So I'm so pleased that you brought that up. It's really, really good point.
I honestly just had goosebumps jolt down my spine because of something you said.
Go on.
And I promised anyone listening, we did not pre-plan this. It's just blowing my mind right now, because I can never say his last name, Mike.
I think it's Michaelwitz. I can honestly say, if you go to his website, he has next to his logo, which is his name, he has a listen to, and you can listen to how it's pronounced and all the ways that it shouldn't be pronounced.
This is what I need to do.
I still get it wrong.
I need to ingrain that, because every time I'm like, Mike Mick something or other,
yeah,
who wrote
him.
But he, in Pumpkin Plan, he talks about this, what you were just talking about, the insider strategy.
Yep.
Where it's like, if I'm going to go and do a product launch, I'm going to first go to my little small community of raving fans and get their input on every step of the way. So he gave an example of like a hunting knife.
Yep.
And it's a company I think he has a stake in, like he has an equity.
It's actually stake. The sheaths for the hunting knives. It's a really specific hunting knife that goes into a leather sheath. Yeah,
the leather sheath. Yeah. And he talks about like, okay, I'm going to go to my inner circle and I'm going to go and ask people like, hey, everyone, I was thinking about doing this route or this route, presents them with some options, gets their feedback along the way. And it's like, do you think that you would like this style or this style? And then they have buy-in, and they actually feel like they're part of this new product launch because they were providing their input.
Yeah.
And the benefit of this is it's like sold out before you even launch. Like you can pre-purchase it. There's so much buy-in from that inner circle, which just helps you leverage that community when you're going after like a bigger market.
Absolutely.
And Steve, I reference this strategy all the time with clients and with store owners that I talk with. They're always saying like, how do I launch a product? And I'm always like, insider strategy is what we got to do. And it could start before you ever launch. Like you're saying, go talk to your mom, get the real feedback.
Yep.
My mom has given me lots of amazing business feedback that I needed along the way. And I think like that's what it is. We got to validate it through a small circle. Like I know one of our clients sells CBD dog food. Yep. So it's like helps aging dogs with like bone and muscle pains and all these things. It's a phenomenal product. And when she got started, she couldn't really advertise because it was in the CBD space. So she literally called up the Golden Retriever Association of America, the Dachshund Association of America, and was like, hey, listen, if you have aging dogs, I have this product, would love to like get your feedback on it. And literally she has tripled her business 3 years in a row. It is on Shopify Plus and is like a massive operation now. Yeah. But it all started with the small community and validating product market fit there before doing a ton of crazy marketing.
Yeah.
Like this will probably, I just to go back to what I was saying with don't do more marketing for the sake of doing more marketing. A lot of people think that like in the Shopify space, I know you're going to nod your head and agree with this one, is that a lot of times people get distracted by all these shiny apps and they're like, what's that?
Surely not.
And they'll just pile on more apps thinking that's going to solve the problem. Like we need an announcement bar. We need an exit intent. We need like 300 different things and that's going to solve everything. And I like using all these apps, but it's like, what we need to think about with the app is what's the core strategy behind the app. Yeah. And not just like do more marketing for the sake of doing more marketing. Let's simple it down, validate the product. If the product is something that we've demonstrated that consumers are going to love, then I'm feeling a little bit more confident with spending your ad investment.
Absolutely. And the ad investment being something that you have to think about. You can't, and that's the importance of making sure that somebody actually likes your product before you actually sell it. And I mentor for a trust in the UK called the Prince's Trust, and they are wonderful. They help young people get into business and all the rest of it. And it's a really, really good program. They've helped over 1 million people over the years, and it's really, really good. I go into their marketing training and I say, who's your target audience? And the amount of times that everybody comes back and you have to turn around and say, you're marketing to 7 billion people, good luck, and they go, oh yeah, I've only got 400 quid a month. How am I going to do that? And you have to explain to them, you need to niche down, you need to go and find a group of people to talk to. And that's it. You find your tribe and you talk to your tribe about it, because that's where you're going to get the best information you can possibly get. And the dog food thing is absolutely genius, because going off and finding the groups. And I had a guy called Ollie Hills did his podcast comes out after yours, but he recorded yesterday, and he was saying that the groups on Facebook, which have always been there, these groups of people, these like-minded people that are giving information, they're happy to do so because it's all behind closed doors. They're there. So no matter what product you come up with, find a group of people, go in, start talking to them, and then introduce your product and say, hey, look. And if you're one of these people, and I am going to say it because you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about, Scott. If you're one of these people that will turn around and say, I don't want to tell people about my product before I launch because I'm worried they're going to steal my idea, it's a bad idea.
Yeah.
It's not going to work. If you're not that confident in it, then it's not going to work.
I can't tell you how many times someone handed me like an NDA, like here's an NDA. I like need confidentiality on my product idea.
Great.
And I always just look at it like,
yeah.
Because it's like even if you launch, someone can rip it off. Like it's not like it's never really the idea. It's like the execution and building the community and making sure it's actually something that provides value to that community.
Yeah, if you want to be one step ahead with your product, then get the buy-in of the community first, because it doesn't matter how many of them go to market. You will be the first, and you will be the one with the authority. So do that.
If you've heard like Rachel Hollis, do you know Rachel Hollis?
Yeah, I know Rachel.
She had a book that was like Wash Your Face Girl,
Yep.
or something like that. I saw her speak at Traffic and Conversion Summit, not this year because it was postponed, but the year before that. And she was saying that like she always wanted to be a writer.
Yep.
And she was working some other full-time jobs. She wanted to be a writer. She wanted to write fiction. She wanted to write like mystery romance novels. And when she wrote these novels, they got zero traction at all. No publisher would give her any attention. So she started like this mom blog. It was a mommy blog, and it was about like daily routines, breakfast routines, staying healthy. And it was just really honest and transparent and all these things. And she just kept getting all these amazing insights from her like booming community. And then she ended up writing her first book that was all topics from the Facebook community.
Yep.
So it
all
was
stuff that she'd had feedback on, and all stuff that she knew that when it hit the shelves, people were going to be interested in.
And then she was like that year was like the #2 book next to Michelle Obama. So it like blew up massively.
Crazy. That's brilliant. My next question for you, obviously we've spoken about what doesn't work. So my next question is, what do you think is working in the world of digital marketing right now?
So and that's another phenomenal question. And again, these two questions are quite related. So my answers are going to be kind of on that same wavelength as well. But the things that are working is like, you know, if we start doing more marketing for the sake of doing more marketing, we dilute our focus, and we don't really have like a tied-in strategy. It's the same as the user experience. Like a lot of people on Facebook are just seeing all of these ads popping up. So the only thing that's going to work is not to do more ads and not to just keep doing more emails and more marketing. We need to resonate our message with their deep aspirational state. So we need to actually we can never spend enough time getting to know what keeps our customers up at night. And I think like all the ideas we talked about so far is like getting that direct feedback from your community. You can do like forums, you can send out emails, you can send out surveys. All these kinds of things are really important. But you can also, like one of our favorite things to do is look at all of the existing product reviews that you have. And if you don't have any, you're at that crawl stage and you're just getting started, go look at your competitors' really deep, thorough reviews. And that's kind of like Ryan Levesque's ask method, where you're just like, you know, and we've read that book, we understand that concept, and we've really taken it to heart, is that we want to take the guesswork out of ads. We want to make sure that whatever we're doing is speaking to that pain and passion point. The customer has a pain. How are we going to get them to a gain? What is their aspiration? And we create ads that really, really resonate with that deep pain point. And I know this is digital marketing 101. So I'm going to just narrow it down here for a sec, but I know obviously you're going to nod your head and agree with all these things. But when we think of like Google advertising, it's a high intent user who's on Google actively searching for a solution to that pain. So they're like, okay, I'm on Google, I have this pain, I'm looking for a solution. When they go to Facebook, they're not on Facebook seeking a solution to that pain. It's like, you know, with Google, it's like yellow pages. I'm actively looking up a directory, who's the best business. On Facebook, it's more like billboard advertising, where you're driving down a highway on the way to your vacation home, and you're inundated with all these billboards.
Yeah.
Yeah. And only the one that's going to catch your eye is like, hey, we have a water park in this city that you never heard about. And it's like, oh, that's a great complimentary thing for my family vacation. So it's like, you know, I was wondering about like, how am I going to make my vacation better? Boom, this billboard just like knows me too well. And you're going to pay attention to that. And then you're going to go and look up the water park. So I think like what is working, we can never spend enough time getting to understand what is actually keeping our customers up at night, and then crafting like creative content that compels them to go deeper into the relationship. Like I think a lot of like the way that marketing is headed is a lot of automation. Probably scares the heck out of a lot of us. Like soon you'll go on Facebook, run an ad, Facebook's going to automate the whole thing right through AI. And you're going to do the same thing on Google. But the thing that they won't be able to do is craft really creative, compelling copy and like images and creative and all these things that is going to be the vessel that attracts it's going to be like that piece that it can't be replaced with AI. And we need to craft these really compelling messages that speak to the end user.
Yeah, no, you said you knew I was going to nod, so I'm nodding because I totally agree with you. Yeah, I mean, you heard it here first, folks. If you're still looking for a niche to go into in the digital marketing arena, then copywriting is going to be huge for years and years to come, because one thing that artificial intelligence can't do at the moment is tug on heartstrings. And that is part of advertising, is having that connection. And as Scott rightly said, if you look at what's keeping somebody awake at night, what's the one thing that your product, your service is going to solve, that's going to make that person sleep better. If you can give someone an extra 4 hours sleep a night, they're going to love you forever. They're going to keep coming back. And as part of the build out the customer avatars that we do, and I know that you follow the same regiment as we do, you have to understand the customer avatar. You have to understand what this person's pain points are, but not just what the pain points are, but what that person's going to feel once those pain points are solved. And having somebody at rest, and having somebody feeling that they are Rocky Balboa jumping up and down on the top of the steps of the town hall in Philadelphia, is that's what you're aiming at. Is you want that person to feel absolutely incredible. And yeah, no, I totally agree. You need to dig as deep as you possibly can. And AI does scare me. I'm not. That's a totally different conversation for you and I. But
I kind of plugged that in there so quickly.
Yeah.
It's a whole conversation for another day.
It is a bit scary, because especially with the looking at things like blocking of cookies and stuff like that, and stopping all of the collection of information. AI is going to be really, really important to overcome that, and that is something that we're going to have to look at. But when it actually comes to getting a message across, you need to understand who you're talking to, and you need to dive very, very deep into your advertising to do so. As you said, the yellow pages, Google, easy. And for those of you that don't remember the yellow pages, it was a big book full of business telephone numbers, and you used to stand on it to get the cookies off the top shelf. But yeah, there's so many companies out there now that are blanket advertising and getting it wrong. They're not trying to solve a problem for somebody. They are just blanket advertising. And I think that's going to be the key to success in the future, is making sure that you are still connecting with that human to human relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's easy for us when we're looking at the success of a campaign. We're usually looking at three main things. Like, did they click on the ad? Yes, there was a good click-through rate. Okay, so the ad, there's some validation there. If the message isn't tied in with the product, we might still have an ad problem. But if the whole sequence is aligned and the ad is talking about some type of offer, and we have a lot of people clicking through, then we're like, okay, the ad should be good. Then if nobody's converting on the landing page, we might have an offer problem. And then if nobody's converting the offer and we've tried all these things, it might be a product problem. So it's either like a message, an offer, or a product problem. And at the very top of it is that message.
Yep.
So that's the one thing that we need to make sure we are getting right, because if we can't get the message right, nobody's even going to be listening to us at all.
No, totally agree. And the horror stories that you not only hear about, but you see. I personally use it as a way of reaching out to people. Did you know your marketing's horrible?
Yeah.
I was asked, I take part as a bank in the UK called NatWest, and I take part in their accelerator program, which is for entrepreneurs, and they bring them all together and all the rest of it. And they ask you to write a 60-second pitch. And I started off, and I spoke to our friend Brian Plum, and I said to Brian, look, I need a really good stat to start off my 60-second pitch and all the rest of it. And he turned around and he went, right, okay. And then I went in, and my coach said to me, your pitch is good, but it's not Steve enough. And then I adjusted it, and my 60-second pitch now starts with, your marketing sucks. And the idea behind it is to get people just to think about what they're doing. And it's, your marketing sucks. Think about that just for a minute. Now imagine that I'm a future customer, and just put that element of thinking into people's heads. And I beg of you all, when you're putting out ads and you're putting messages out, just have a think about how you would feel when you've read that ad, when you looked at that picture, when you pulled up that video. How would you feel? Because there are, I mean, the Harmon brothers are, they're just ridiculous with what they create. They're geniuses. But you don't have to be a genius in order to communicate with somebody. You just have to be a human being. Copywriting, one of the number one rules of copywriting is that you communicate with somebody. And that comes in with ad copy as well, is that you are communicating with somebody. You're not just screaming, "Hey, buy my rubbish." You have to communicate with somebody, and you have to get a message across. And I do think is a really, really important point. Yeah.
I think no, this is really good. You just keep getting my gears going in my mind here. and honestly, I think one of the, I have a really good example of this. You've read StoryBrand, I'm guessing. StoryBrand. Yeah. Donald Miller, he talks about a lot of companies are guilty about making themselves the hero of the story, but we need to make our end user, our customer, the hero of the story. Absolutely. So all of our messaging is about how we are a guide to get our hero to what they want to achieve. So I think a really good example, we work with a beverage company. Our clients on Shopify, they sell beverages, and well-funded startup, and they were starting to get their beverages in 7-Elevens across North America. They were getting it in the Virgin Center in Las Vegas and Cosmopolitan and all these things. And when I first started talking with them, they were like, we don't actually think that the Shopify store is going to build, but we want to still work with an expert team who can help us with just presentation. And I was like, I challenge you on this. We actually want to get you some sales. And what ended up happening when we first met with them, they'd been doing some marketing for about a year, and they couldn't even crack $1,000 on the Shopify store. So they didn't really think it was a big part of their business. We got them to over $160,000 a month in 90 days.
There you go, people. Don't challenge Scott Cunningham.
No, I needed to preempt my next message with that, because you know how we did that? We started to see a little bit of growth, and this company, like I said, they're beverage company, well-funded, branded, beautiful content. One of the nicest Shopify stores I've ever laid my eyes on. All the content is beautiful, well-produced. And when we started running ads, we started using some of their high-produced content. And we were but we knew in advance, we said, you know what we need? We need content that speaks to the end user. We need customer testimonials. And what we did is just created this cell phone video. We didn't do it, but we advised them, go take the cell phone video. And it was during the heart of the pandemic. And we did this video that was someone walking around with their cell phone, and they're just recording it with a beverage in their hand like this. And they're going up to deliver it to someone at their house.
Fantastic.
So it just really fit with the aspirational state. I can get these awesome beverages delivered to me during the pandemic when I don't want to leave my house. And it just absolutely took off after that. And it was really we just really gimmicked the user experience, or not mimicked. Can you edit that out? we mimicked. We need a blooper reel then. But we mimicked the user experience and the value that they receive. It's hey, I don't want to leave my house, but this amazing product that's only available in Los Angeles, it's going to turn up at the door. And that's the thing that just took off.
Fantastic. Scott Cunningham, absolute genius. Thank you so much indeed. And I say this about a lot of my guests, but I could sit and talk to you all day. And I think you already know that I really could sit and talk to you all day. And
absolutely,
we'd have a whole podcast series about all sorts of stuff. So we'll maybe deal with that one in the future when we've got a bit more time booked out. But Scott Cunningham, how can people get in touch with you if they want to reach out?
Yeah, Steve, first of all, thank you so much. I couldn't agree more. I think I'm always talking to fellow Shopify geniuses. I feel like you and I are just on a wavelength and so aligned on a lot of these strategies and methodologies. Absolute pleasure to come here today. And if anybody wants to reach out, we have a Facebook group, surprise, where we build a lot of community. And during the pandemic, we've gotten it's just almost at 1,000 people right now. And
Fantastic.
it's facebook.com/groups/merchant mastery. So
Okay.
the Facebook group is called Merchant Mastery. That's the URL. And the last thing I'll plug is that we actually have done a lot of pivoting during this pandemic. We started building a lot of courses. We launched a course that was like how to build your Shopify store in 10 days. We did it as like a pay as you can initiative and had like 150 students go through that course. And most recently, what I'm trying to get to is we launched some Black Friday, Cyber Monday courses. We have some amazing students from all around the world, United Kingdom, Puerto Rico in there. And we're actually coaching people to build their Black Friday campaigns, like offer strategies, email strategies, ad strategies, landing page strategies. So if anyone wants to check that out, merchantmastery.io/pages/BFCM.
And we will include all of those links in the description of the podcast. So if you want to find those, then they are all in the description. So last thing is for me to say, Scott, thank you so much indeed for your time, and your energy is just absolutely incredible. I don't know where you get all your energy from, because you're always upbeat and full. And I think it must be the Canadian thing. I do think, all of my Canadian guests have just got this life in them. So that I'm thinking that I belong more there than I do here, but
it's in the maple syrup.
It's in the maple syrup. Yeah, absolutely. Scott, thank you so much indeed for coming on Digital Marketing Confessions. You've been an absolute wonderful guest, and thank you everyone for listening.
Thanks so much, Steve.